បាទជំរាបសួរបងប្អូននេះគឺជាហាងចេញមាសនៅថ្ងៃទី25ថ្ងៃគ្រិស្មាស់តែម្ដងតម្លៃមាសនៅក្នុងថ្ងៃនេះគឺស្ថិតនៅក្នុង$218នៅក្នុង1ជីសម្រាប់ការទូទាយថាមាសនៅក្នុងចុងឆ្នាំនេះឡើងដល់230គឺតំណងខ្ញុំខុសហើយតកតងជាមួយនឹងការព្យាករណ៍ក្នុងតម្លៃមាសក៏មានការដេញដោលដោយស្ថាប័នគីតូមួយដែរដែលវែកញែកតកតងជាមួយនឹងការព្យាករណ៍អំពីតម្លៃមាសដែលក្នុងនោះគឺអ្នកវិភាគបានទូទាយថាតម្លៃមាសនឹងចាប់ផ្ដើមផ្ទុះនៅក្នុងឆ្នាំ2023យ៉ាងណាមិញស្ថាប័នគីតូបាននិយាយថាការទូទាយបែបនេះដែលថាមាសកើតនៅក្នុងឆ្នាំ2023ក្រោយមានការចេញ data ទិន្នន័យមួយចំនួនរបស់សហរដ្ឋអាមេរិកហ្នឹងគឺបានបង្ហាញថាការទូទាយហ្នឹងនៅសល់តែ 15% តែប៉ុណ្ណោះដែលនឹងក្លាយជាការពិតសូមបងប្អូនទស្សនាការដេញដោលនិងការជជែកវែកញែកគ្នាជាមួយនឹងអ្នកវិភាគទាំងអស់គ្នា
I want to revisit your last call for 2022 before we get into 2023. You were on with me about almost 12 months ago, exactly last year, where we were doing the outlook for the 2022 series. I asked you the same question, and you had said that silver and gold could perform a little bit differently from each other this year. You had expected silver to fall in 2022 due to a number of slowing economic factors, and you expected gold to rally. Now, unfortunately, you got only 50% of that consistently right because gold did rally, but it didn't stay high. I want to talk about gold first before we get into silver. Why did gold rally for only a short amount of time following the invasion of Ukraine before falling back down?
Yeah, well, gold actually started to rally in January before the invasion of Ukraine. Yes. And it was a combination of factors. It was inflation fears. It was fears about what interest rates would do to the broader economy. And then there were fears of recessions. And then the Russians invaded Ukraine and the price was strong. As the second quarter and then third quarter and fourth quarter proceeded, inflation started to wane slightly, slowly, but it was showing some signs of coming down. Interest rates were rising, but I think the broader financial markets realized that even with the increases in interest rates, they were starting off at 0 or 25 basis points, and they've gotten up to 4% right now. And 4% is like the low end of the range that you saw in interest rates from, say, 1970 to 2000. So interest rates have risen sharply, but they're at very low levels, not so high as to really throw us into a recession. And, if you go back to early 2022, there were any number of people who were waving their arms saying that we were going to fall into a recession. And we did have a negative 1.6% GDP contraction in the first quarter in the US and negative 0.6% contraction. So, theoretically, numerically, we were in a recession, but it was a very short, shallow recession, and there were pockets of strength. As the year progressed, you saw people become less concerned about inflation, less concerned about interest rates, less concerned about an imminent recession.
Yes.
And the gold price subsided. You still have concerns about inflation, interest rates, and recession, but they've been kind of rolled forward into the future. Inflation is seemingly more under control than a lot of people thought. Interest rates are starting to show signs of slowing down on their increase, and the projections are another 0.5% increase over the next quarter, and then they probably plateau for most of 2023. And a recession, you've seen people saying, well, we're going to have a big recession in 2022. No, it's going to be 2023. And now most mainstream economists say, well, it's going to be the second half of 2023 or 2024. Okay. So, all of that economic pain and fear has been rolled forward. And that is reflected in investors pulling back some, very little actually, from purchasing gold and silver.
All right, I want to revisit your recession call because you have gone on air before and you have called for the next recession to hit anywhere between 2023 and 2025. In your most recent newsletter that you sent me before this interview, you highlighted 3 of your main concerns, or I guess 3 highlights for the following year, namely that inflation will come back down or trend down, number 1, that a recession will likely come, and number 3, interest rates will likely rise at least through the first quarter of 2023. I'm going to touch on all 3 points, but let's go back to gold gold first and finish off on what happened with gold this year. You know, I brought this up to some other people on the show. I find it, I guess, ironic that inflation was trending up this year before it started trending down after June. But the point is, with higher inflation, we saw a higher tick up in the short end of the yield curve, thus pushing up real interest rates up, which coincidentally pushed gold down. So in a sense, it's kind of ironic that inflation was deflationary for gold this year. Could you make that statement?
I would make that statement, and we have gone on record recently with some of our views talking about how in 2023 you could see lower inflation and higher precious metals prices. Again, you know, the historical relationship between inflation and gold and silver price changes is not at all what a lot of people think. It's a 9% historic correlation in month-to-month changes over time. There are times when they move together. There are times when they move away from each other. And because of the interest rate function, which you just talked about, it's quite possible that you will see a trend downward in inflation, still high, but like maybe 4% by the end of 2023. You could see a trending down in inflation, but a trending higher in gold and silver prices.
មើលទៅហាក់ដូចជាលេងសើចបន្តិចនៅក្បាលដំបូងនៃការបោះសម្ភាសន៍ដែលនិយាយថាការទូទាយហ្នឹងវានៅសល់តែ 15% នៃការពិតលោកនៅក្នុងហ្នឹងបងប្អូនមួយចំនួនដែលចេះភាសាអង់គ្លេសក៏អាចស្ដាប់បានដែរអ្វីដែលខ្ញុំនិយាយគឺមិនបកទាំងស្រុងទេព្រោះ 4 នាទីហើយមែនតើការសម្ភាសន៍ហ្នឹងមានរហូតដល់ 30 នាទីដែលនិយាយអំពីមាសនិយាយអំពីប្រាក់និយាយអំពីទំហំនៃការផលិតមាសនៅក្នុងឆ្នាំ 2023 ក្រោយមានការកម្រិតការជីកមាសហើយការពង្រីកបន្ថែមនៃរណ្ដៅជីកមាសផងដែរសូមបញ្ជាក់ថានៅក្នុងការវិភាគនេះបទវិភាគនេះក៏បាននិយាយអំពីអារម្មណ៍និងការជួញដូរនៅក្នុងនៅឆមាសទី1ទី2ហើយវាបានផ្លាស់ប្ដូរនៅឆមាសទី3បន្ទាប់ពី inflation វាផ្ដល់នូវសញ្ញាណថាខ្លួនវាបានធ្លាក់នៅពេលឆមាសទី4អ្វីដែលយើងអាចឃើញនោះគឺអតិផរណានឹងគឺចាប់ផ្ដើមធ្លាក់បន្តិចម្ដងដែលរំពឹងថានៅក្នុងចុងឆ្នាំ 2023 ហ្នឹងអតិផរណានឹងវានឹងអាចធ្លាក់រហូតដល់ 4% វិញយ៉ាងណាការជួញដូរមាសវានៅតែមានកម្រិតខ្ពស់ជាមួយនឹង silver ប៉ុន្តែវាមិនផ្ទុះដោយដែលអាចថាទៅបានប៉ុន្តែវាគ្រាន់តែជាអ្វីដែលនៃការវិភាគតែប៉ុណ្ណោះមានមូលហេតុជាច្រើនតើតើជាមួយនឹងការធ្លាក់នៃតម្លៃមាសមកវិញមានន័យថាវាមិនឡើងដល់កម្រិតមួយដែលយើងអាចនិយាយថានឹងឡើងខ្លាំងប៉ុន្តែវានៅតែមានឱកាសក្នុងការឡើងខ្លាំងពីព្រោះឆមាសទី1ក៏មិនទាន់ចប់ហើយឆមាសទី2ក៏មិនទាន់ចប់ដូចគ្នាសូមបញ្ជាក់ថាមានបន្ទាប់ពីការធ្លាក់ចុះយ៉ាងខ្លាំងហ្នឹងគឺសហរដ្ឋអាមេរិកក៏បានបញ្ចូលមាសចូលទៅក្នុងសេដ្ឋកិច្ចរបស់ខ្លួននៅក្នុងខែ 10-11 នេះគឺបញ្ចូលទៅដល់31តោនបន្ថែមហើយជាមធ្យមសហរដ្ឋអាមេរិកនេះគឺបានបញ្ចូលមាសរហូតដល់ 463 តោនគឺតាំងពីឆ្នាំ 2021 ដើម្បីជាមានបំរុងហ្នឹងដើម្បីផ្គត់ផ្គង់ទៅលើសេដ្ឋកិច្ចដែលមានកំពុងតែមានបញ្ហាហើយបច្ចុប្បន្នបានអេតនៅ31តោនបន្ថែមហើយគោលការណ៍នៅក្នុងការយកមាសទៅដោះស្រាយបញ្ហារបស់សេដ្ឋកិច្ចសហរដ្ឋអាមេរិកហ្នឹងកំពុងតែបន្តដើម្បីផ្ដល់ជាហេរញ្ញប្បទានឬក៏អនុទានមួយចំនួនទៅដល់ពលរដ្ឋអាមេរិកបន្ថែមទៀតយ៉ាងណាមិញការធ្វើបែបនេះវានៅតែលក្ខណៈ 50% ទេប្រសិនបើអតិផរណាវានឹងចាប់ដើមធ្លាក់នោះតម្លៃមាសនៅវាមិនផ្ទុះខ្លាំងប៉ុន្តែវានឹងវិលទៅរកសភាពដើមរបស់វាដែលយើងបានឃើញវាអាចនៅក្នុងចន្លោះ 2400 ឬក៏ 2300 ឬក៏ចន្លោះ 2500 ហើយក៏វានឹងអាចឡើងទៅដល់ 2500 ជាងដែរជាតម្លៃមាសប៉ុន្តែវានឹងចាប់ដើមឡើងនៅក្នុងឆ្នាំ 2024 វិញដោយសារតែការកម្រិតនៃការជីកកោះកកាយនៃទំហំមាសហើយនឹងការស្តុកខ្លាំងពេកទៅជាមួយនឹងចំនួនមាសដែលសហរដ្ឋដែលរុស្ស៊ីហើយនិងចិនហាក់ដូចជាខ្ញុំដែរពួកខ្ញុំក៏យល់ឃើញថាមាសកំពុងតែនឹងឡើងតម្លៃដែរខណៈដែលរុស្ស៊ីនិងចិនយល់ថាសេដ្ឋកិច្ចពិភពលោកនឹងមានបញ្ហាវិបត្តិសេដ្ឋកិច្ចហើយជាប្រទេសពីរដែលទិញមាសយកទៅស្តុកខ្លាំងជាងគេលើពិភពលោកតែម្ដងមានន័យថាគ្រប់ប្រទេសទាំងអស់មានប្រទេសណាទិញទេក្រៅពីប្រទេសហ្នឹងក្រៅពីផលិតខ្លួនឯងហើយក៏ទិញទៀតប៉ុន្តែមកក្នុងករណីទី2ដែលមាន recession មានវិបត្តិសេដ្ឋកិច្ចអតិផរណាវាមិនចុះមកវិញទេអារម្មណ៍នៃការទិញមាសនិងការជួញដូរមាសនឹងកើនឡើង ដូចដែលអ្នកព្យាករក៏បាននិយាយគឺឡើងរហូតដល់$3,000នៅក្នុងមួយឱនយ៉ាងណាមិញនេះគឺជាបទសម្ភាសន៍ដែលគេលើកយកមកវិញញែកនៅក្នុងថ្ងៃនេះយើងក៏មិនប្រកាសនិយមថាវានឹងកើតឡើងនៅក្នុងចំណុចមួយណាដែរសូមតាមបន្តទៅលើ channel របស់ខ្ញុំសូមអរគុណសូមជម្រាបលា